Hey, this is Michael Emery. Thanks for tuning into the Slow Baja. This podcast is powered by Tequila Fortaleza, handmade in small batches and hands down my favorite tequila. Well, if you've been listening to me for a while, you know I'm an absolute minimalist when it comes to Baja travel. But the one thing I never leave home without is a good old paper map. And my favorite is the beautiful, and I mean beautiful, Baja Road and Recreation Atlas by Benchmark Maps. It's an oversized 72-page book, jam-packed with details, and now you can get it from me at slowbaja.com. That's right. You can get it in the Slow Baja shop, and in fact, you better get two. One for your trip planning at home and one for your Baja rig. And if you love maps and you can't get enough of them like me, let me tell you about two sites I am absolutely obsessed with. Eastview MapLink and longitudemaps.com. Whatever you're looking for in maps, it's there. From the entire Benchmark collection to Baja wall maps to custom maps, you'll find it all at longitudemaps.com or evmaplink.com. You know, I've long said it, ask your doctor if Baja's right for you. Well, if you've been hankering to get down to Slow Baja with me, you got to check out the Adventures tab at slowbaja.com. All my trips are there, from my famed fall vintage extravaganza to my winter and summer expeditions, which are open to trucks of any age. You know, on a Slow Baja expedition, your meals are always included, which really does take the sting out of camping. And when we get off the trail, let me tell you, we have the happiest of happy hours. If good dirt roads, private campsites, ranch stays, great food, and great people sounds like your kind of fun, well, you got to check out the Adventures tab at slowbaja.com. But don't delay. These trips are small, they're highly immersive, and they will sell out. And folks, just so you know, I am always here for you for your Baja trip planning questions. One question, 100 questions. The easy way to get me is slowbaja.com/contact. And if you'd like to go to Baja and you don't want to go by yourself, you don't have a vintage vehicle, my winter trip doesn't work out for you, I am happy to talk to you about organizing and leading a private guided tour. I've done it. I've loved it. The pictures are over there at slowbaja.com/adventures, and you can check them out. And if you've got some questions, let's talk. Thanks for tuning in to today's Slow Baja. My heaping dose of gratitude goes out to 4x4 Engineering Service and Bradley Wheels USA. Yep, they're really out of Japan, even though they say Bradley Wheels USA. They are the OG wheel for Land Cruisers like my 1990 HD J80, my turbo digital super cool imported 80 series Land Cruiser. Yep, these wheels are the OGs and they look so cool on my truck and I'm so stoked to have them. And those BF Goodrich KO3s look absolutely perfect. Perfect spec, went back down to a smaller size wheel and tire, and it really looks good and the truck performs beautifully, and I am so thrilled. So thanks guys at 4x4 Engineering and Bradley Wheel USA out of Japan. I'm going to be showing those wheels off all summer and fall. You'll see me at Overland Expo Pacific Northwest. You'll see me at Overland Expo Mountain West, and I will also be at the Solid Axle Summit and Cruiser Fest for you Land Cruiser nerds. So if you see the truck, if you see Frank, come over and say hello. All right, well, today's show is part 2 of the Chris Collard conversation, and I'm not going to delay you anymore. Here it is on the Slow Baja. Chris Collard, Adventure Architects, wrapping it up, our long and beautiful conversation on Baja and all things adventure. So Chris Collard today on Slow Baja. Well, let's talk about our neighbors to the south that you and I have found so much enjoyment going to Baja. You're going to Baja this week. I'm going to Baja next week.
36 hours, man. I got to be wheels up.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about that. You've spent some time there in your youth with your dad. You've come back as a professional photographer. You've dug a lot of stories from there. It's very close to your heart, in my opinion. You know, if you only had one place left to go, or if they said this is your last trip, Chris, would that be the place?
Yeah. It's funny because
I mean, again, I'm not trying to steer you into that direction, but I think that's,
I've had a lot of people ask me, it's like, what was your favorite place? Or if you were going to go back to some place, what would that, if they ask me what my favorite place is, it would be the place I haven't gone yet.
Sure.
There's, good and bad things about a lot of the places that I've been, but if somebody asked me, if somebody could teleport me to a place right now that I would just hang out for a month, it would be back in Baja, probably underneath a palapa on a beach somewhere. Maybe around the Conception Bay, or I don't know. But to me, it's an atmosphere. It's, my wife says it's my happy place. It's a place that I can cross at Calexico, and within 40 minutes, I can be on a dirt road, and I can stay on a dirt road for thousands of miles, zigzagging your way south until you get to until you get to Cabo.
Yeah, this is copyrighted, but I always say it's the desolation on our doorstep.
Yeah.
And it's true that you can just get on a dirt road and go.
Yeah. And people are afraid of Mexico, and Baja is part of Mexico, but and I'm not saying that nothing bad happens down there, because it is infiltrating into the peninsula, unfortunately, the cartel stuff. But it's not as prevalent as one might think. And I wrote an article a few years ago. It was about, Baja travel skills guide. And, so I did some research on how many Americans are murdered in Baja every year, or how many die, and then how many are, natural causes, how many were in an accident, how many were murdered. You have a better chance of being murdered in just about any city in the United States than you do in Mexico as a whole, and even less in Baja.
Yeah, I delivered a lecture right after the surfers were killed at Overland Expo, Baja 101. And I realized the only thing people want to know about is, safety, where to go so you don't get killed, or where not to go so that happens. And, I live in Chicago, and people think Chicago's a very dangerous city. Of course, not where I live. The crime that I deal with is a $7 cookie and Ubers clogging my streets, because it's a pretty nice, happening neighborhood. And being in Flagstaff in Arizona with open carry, I always felt like I'm much more in danger when two guys start arguing over their rooftop tents than I ever have been in 42 years of Baja travel. I've never, ever felt endangered by another human in Baja. That has just not been part of my experience in any manner, any shape. I'm not trying to falsely say nothing happens there,
right?
But nothing has happened there wherever I've been over 42 years of traveling there. And in that old truck, which is completely open, and I'm doing 10,000 miles a year down there now, for the last 5-6 years. Knock wood.
Yeah.
But it's not without its dangers. But I still think the danger that will get me one day will be the narrow roads, driving on the road, the pothole that shears off tie rod.
It's the most dangerous place in Baja is the Highway 1.
Yeah, and that's what's going to get me. And then my son's going to have to build a little shrine to Slow Baja that'll have a perpetual Fortaleza trickle. You can hold your shot glass and get a trickle.
Oh, darn it. I just lost his name. The guy that's got the huge...
Hector,
the truck driver, the big red, photographed that thing. Hector lost
He's
it. He's famous. I put him
Peterbilt
in like a number of different articles.
Yeah. So again, what keeps you coming back? What is it about Baja? Again, it's next door, so it's easy. But I mean, if we lived in North Dakota, would we be going to Canada with such excitement? I don't know. I think so.
I don't know. Depends on the environment you grow up in and what turns you on, I guess.
Yeah.
Why do I keep going back? That's a darn good question, because I like it, because it's my happy place, because there's so many desert camps and arroyos and beaches and taco stands and people. The people, in my experience, and I've had a similar experience to you, I've had some run-ins with the police, corrupt police and et cetera. But the people in general are amazing, and they will help you in any way that they can. If you've got them, I mean, I was coming off of Punta Abrejos years ago and snapped a tie rod, and I'm on the side of this guy that's hitchhiking on the main road. And he walks over and he starts giving us.
In those days? Was it still dirt?
It was dirt. Yeah,
it was a long time ago.
Horrible
And that
washboard road,
and that was way out of the way in those days.
Yeah, this would have been late '90s probably.
Yeah. But it didn't get paved until not a few years ago, not too long ago.
I drove it a couple of years ago. I'm like, holy crud!
Yeah, and people still don't go out there.
Well, yeah. Anyway, he comes over and he just showed. People just show up.
Yeah,
people live everywhere.
Yeah,
whether it's in Baja or Morocco or Europe and northern Cambodia up towards the Thai border, it's like people live there. You stop and like people just show up out of the jungle or out of the rocks in Morocco or in Africa out of the bush. Anyway, he showed up and had some suggestions on pulling off the rod end, and they will just help you, and they know how to do stuff because they have been
Mexican
getting by
technology. Put a Band-Aid on it
with nothing forever. Yeah. They figure out how. They don't have cool, DeWalt power tools and whatever. They figure out how to fix it. They put a rock underneath it and beat it with another rock on the top until you loosen the ball joint pops out. Put your jack under it. Put the jack between the top and the frame. I mean, it's. I have a great deal of respect for the people who live without means that figure out how to make it happen. That the folks that lived that were at Mission San Borja, they had an old S10 pickup, I think it was. I'm trying to remember, but they had a Isuzu motor in it because they had a motor that they figured out. They don't care. They mix and match.
It's like
it
Cuba
runs,
makes it work.
It runs. Yeah, you got wheels.
So. One of the things that I've really been thinking a lot about as Slow Baja, about the stories of the people who passed before us. You and I are firmly in our middle age years, and the people who've passed before us, the OGs, the older guys who did amazing stuff there.
Yeah.
And who can tell me about those folks? I want you to tell me for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, Rod Hall. One of the most amazing Baja racers. You pick it up from there. Why do people need to know who Rod Hall is now after he's passed?
Well, okay. So you mentioned his racing. Rod was he was a genuine guy. Another person that I'm like, yeah, how did I end up being friends with Rod Hall? And how did I end up navigating for him in like his original 68 Bronco? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, and the quick fact about Rod Hall, how many Baja 1000s? Was it 50 in a row or something that he did?
Yeah. So he was there for the first one in 1967.
Yeah.
And he won the 69 event. And of course he was racing a Jeep at first, and then Bill Strop with the Broncos, they couldn't figure out how to beat him. So Strop hired him and he raced Broncos. And then he got on with Dodge, racing Dodge trucks. And that's when he really, really excelled. I don't remember, he had like 35 straight wins, like top of the podium wins, and Dodge loved him. And it was like he was the winningest, I don't know about now, but he was the winningest off-road racer, American off-road racer.
All right. So I just wanted folks who might not recognize that name.
Yeah. So here I am, I still consider myself this snot-nosed kid, even though I was, 45 years old, running with Rod Hall. And so he was, he and his generation, the guys that started doing this stuff in the late 60s, they were the pioneers of going fast in Baja, but there were so many people that preceded them that were just exploring. Earl Stanley Gardner and just lost his name, Howard Gullick, and the guys that they were going down there in the 50s and in the 60s, just driving all the back roads through the peninsulas and through the peninsula, and taking amazing pictures. And I've referenced their stuff so many times in different articles that I've written because they're just like, it was like, I'm
because
envious.
You know your history.
Huh?
You know your history.
Oh, I'm learning the history.
Yeah.
There's so much, I don't know if you've get Dusty Times, if you saw
I'm aware of Dusty Times.
Yeah.
Shot for Dusty Times back in the middle 80s.
And you did, right?
Yeah, when I worked for Trackside.
Mm-hmm.
Not the glamorous Dusty Times that it is today, but I do know Boyd a little bit. And
yeah. So in the issue that they just produced, I did a story called The King's Highway. And it is a 30-page history of Mex 1, so the Transpeninsular Highway.
Right. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful article.
And you've seen it?
Yeah, if I do say so myself.
So it takes us all the way back, to past the 50s and 60s, and when AAA started going down there in the 1920s, and the mining exploration that was done, for oil and gas around the turn of the century, into the mining that was happening in the 1860s and 50s and before that, and then the pearl, some of the
Pearl industry in La Paz.
I'm sorry?
The pearl industry in La Paz.
Yes, and that was actually kind of started by a soldier that started doing a side hustle with the indigenous Indians that would, he would trade stuff for pearls. Mm-hmm. So it's some pretty amazing. I mean, the peninsula's got, as you know, it's got a really deep and rich history. You just have to go look for it. And then when you drive the back roads like you do, at least to me, I look around and I'm always envisioning the Spanish soldiers that took on indigenous wives and stayed and became the vaqueros, the cowboys of the peninsula. And some of them, received land grants, and their families have been there for, 200 years.
Yeah. And it wasn't easy. That terrain is not easy.
It's not.
No matter how big that land grant is, it's not easy. Right. It wasn't an easy place to stay and put down roots.
Well, you figure, Cortez showed up with his fleets in, 1530s, and they got their tails served to them on a tray. The peninsula basically sat untouched for 150 years until the Jesuits showed up, 140 years later. So, I mean, it's a tough environment. The indigenous cultures that lived there, they figured out how to survive. I mean, they'd been there. That was their life. They knew where to get water, where to get food, Yeah.
Yeah. So, Rod Hall, you skipped right over him. 50 years of racing off-road. What made Rod Hall so special?
Rod was, what's funny is Rod was not, he was a very modest guy. You would never, if you were sitting talking to him, or if he was walking through a crowd with all the famous racers of the day, you would not pick Rod out of a crowd.
As one of the most famous, most accomplished.
Yes, because he was not a guy that go around beating his chest.
Yeah,
he was very humble.
Yeah, he wasn't
self-deprecating at times, and just a super nice guy and willing to share knowledge, share some of this stuff. I remember I had met him on a Hummer program up in Nevada, but then ended up in like 2005 or 6 on a H3 program in Baja with him. And I didn't know him really well. I mean, we'd met and stuff, but I'm just a snot-nosed kid.
Snot-nosed kid of 45.
Right.
Or 48.
And, I was running with him and in an H3 somewhere down near El Arco, and I hit the brake with my left foot. Or with my right foot. So I lifted from the throttle, hit the brake, and he's like, "You're never going to be a fast racer if you can't brake with your left foot. You got to brake with your left foot, kid." And just like berated me.
Yeah, I'm like rally driving stuff.
I'm like, and I know that. Why did I?
Well, it's rally driving stuff. Keeping that car balanced. Yeah, keeping that car balanced. If I could wave a magic wand and have one truly amazing sports skill, I wouldn't want to be a great baseball player. I'd want to be a great rally driver. Mm. Yeah, just be able to do that, have that level of car control.
Yeah.
Well, let's bring it home, Chris. Let's bring it home. You're off to Baja. Are you off in your Tacoma with 300 and something thousand miles on it?
340.
340, only 340. Yeah. Okay. So
well, you get to account for the tires. It kind of kicks it up from there, but
okay,
at least 5%.
So you have spent enough time around Baja that in the off-roading, overlanding industry, you have access to stuff, but I think you're kind of a minimalist. And I know I always say, as people are worried about if I need this thing or that thing, I say, you need good tires and good cooling, change your oil and you're ready to go. Because when you and I are out on some dirt road someplace, the only vehicle we're going to see out there is a local rancher in his 84 Ranger on 3 bald tires, not a single light working, leaking something. You can smell that coolant leaking if it still has coolant in it.
You define that very well. That's perfect.
And he's got 3 or 4 people in the front, and maybe there's a calf roped in the back,
Yep.
And he's got a little welded up cage in the back or something, or he's got 5 people in the back. And we're worried about, 16 lights across the front and onboard air and a bunch of other stuff.
The light that works, he's got one headlight that works. That's all you need.
Just one, though. And it's not pointed at the road.
That's
So
right.
what I'm getting to is, Chris, when you're preparing for a Baja trip and you're going to go down, you're going to follow the Nora 1000 all the way from Ensenada down to Cabo, and then you're going to take a couple weeks poking around with your new Baja dog and your wife, and you're going to come back and you're going to be on your own. What do you bring with you? What are all the things that you, or how would you say to somebody who's preparing for a Baja trip, this is what I take?
Well, first thing on my list is the electric dog polisher.
The electric dog
Yes.
polisher. Yeah, everybody needs one.
Yeah,
You
and the
can't-
LED
you can't go
double
down with that
whammy
one.
sink setup. Yeah.
I like the instant hot water on that double whammy sink.
Yes, the instant hot water.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
No, I just had somebody reach out to me and said, I have a Tacoma. I want to take my family. What do I need to know? What do I need to bring? And, and with my truck, and I would get the oil changed, and I would drive it 100 miles, 50 miles one direction, 50 miles back. I'm saying, okay, it's good to go. It's good to go. And then I had to drive it from San Francisco to San Diego. So once I did the oil change and the 100 miles, then I would drive it, all day, 16 hours or something down Highway 1 and 101 and through all that LA traffic. And if I got to San Diego, I knew it was going to be good for 3,000 miles in Baja, no problem. But I do it with a Leatherman and a tool roll because I don't have any skills at all in fixing stuff.
I love my Leatherman.
But you tell me, what's in your toolkit?
I had a story about removing the hood off of, not this Jeep, but another one just like it in the middle of Peru in the Andes, overheating, had to reroute fuel lines, like thing was overheating. Anyway, yeah, Leatherman. That was the only tools we had.
Yeah, if I can't do it with a Leatherman, I've got to find somebody to do it, and then I have tequila to pay him.
Well, yeah, that's Baja currency right there.
Here at Slow Baja, we can't wait to drive our old Land Cruiser south of the border. And when we go, we'll be going with Baja Bound Insurance. Their website's fast and easy to use. Check them out at bajabound.com. That's bajabound.com, serving Mexico travelers since 1994.
Hey, big thanks to those of you who've contributed to our Baja Baseball project. We launched our gear deliveries on my winter expedition. Michael and Matthew from Barbers for Baja were along for the ride, and we got to deliver that critically needed baseball gear up and down the peninsula. It was really, truly amazing. All right, well, please help us continue this vital work. Make your tax-deductible donation at the Barbers for Baja. Click barbersforbaja.org. Click the Baseball in Baja link, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really do. It is so amazingly gratifying to be able to give these kids this chance to keep playing this sport, keep them on the field, keep them out of trouble. Please check it out. Baseball in Baja link at barbersforbaja.org. Thank you. I want to tell you about these new Rocky Talkie radios that I absolutely love. Heavy duty, beautifully made, easy to program, easy to use. We had 28 people, 15 trucks on the Slow Baja Winter Expedition. You can hand these radios to anybody from a 14-year-old kid to an 80-year-old, and they'll know how to use it. They are that well designed. One charge lasted the entire week. We are never out of range. I happened to upgrade to the accessory whip antenna for my radio and for my Sweeps radio, the Donovan brothers. We were never out of contact. I can't say it strongly enough. Rocky Talkie radios, rockytalkie.com. Check them out. Slow Baja approved. But go ahead.
You know what? So I do carry a lot of stuff. I'm not necessarily a minimalist. And I think the more you travel, the more you realize there's stuff that you don't need. And you just start jettisoning things, and I have friends that sail and they're like, yeah, we started with all this stuff and we just start getting rid of it because it's in the way. I'm not saying that I'm a minimalist, but, I do work on vehicles. I feel that I need to be as self-contained as I can. And that doesn't mean a bunch of accessories that you don't necessarily need. But tools, I have an air compressor in my vehicle. I have a welder. I've got a 2K
You're putting
inverter.
You're putting a man out of work that you go to Baja with a welder. There's a welder on every block.
Well, there is, but
probably
sometimes
not
in the
when you
middle
break.
of nowhere. And I do that because
That's the fear. That's the fear.
Because you're chasing a race.
Yeah.
And if you need to fix something in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, it makes you feel better to have a welder.
Sure.
And I've had to use it several times on the race car, not necessarily on my vehicle.
Sure.
And the good thing about having tools like that is that hopefully you're not using them on your vehicle.
Right.
It's always a lot easier and comfortable if you're fixing somebody else's junk.
Well, let's turn this around a little bit. What would Chris Collard, adventure architect, travel to all 7 continents? What would your advice be to somebody who has a modern Tacoma or 4Runner who might not have a lot of fixie skills like me? I don't have any ability to fix anything, even on my simple truck. What would your advice be to somebody going on a Baja trip? What should they have with them?
Well, if they're driving a newer, Tacoma or 4Runner, they're probably not going to have any mechanical issues as long as they drive like a sane person.
Right.
And that's,
go slow. Go slow start solves a lot of problems.
It's like, short of, major mechanical stuff, you need good tires. You need recovery equipment, which could be a strap. I like having a winch on the front. A set of max tracks is great to have. I have buried myself in salt flats by myself in the middle of the night. Not exactly where you want to be.
Well, first of all, you're not supposed to drive at night, Chris. I want to tell you that.
Well, we were chasing a race, and I needed to get in a car.
Exactly. This is
in
the
a
whole
certain
problem.
place.
These races are dangerous.
I wasn't on the track. I was just looking for a place to pull off and sleep in the middle of the night.
And it looked so flat and clean and safe.
But even 4 or 5 years ago, my wife and I were coming up from Abarojos up the beach track that the buses drive on, and I ended up over in the bushes on the track, and I'm like, I think I'll just get back on the bus track. Well, that was a mistake. I just buried myself. And I was fortunate somebody came to help pull me out. So the things that you need.
Max tracks?
Yeah, they didn't. I had a set. I had 2.
6.
I needed 4.
Yeah.
I was just to that point where it was a marsh salt flat. It just went from, I broke through the crust and it just, there's a problem. One of the most important things is common sense. That is one of the most important things about any kind of any travel, but international travel especially. Not be an ugly American, which means, don't jump out and be loud and say things louder because they don't understand them. That's because it's not your country. They don't speak English here, so to speak.
That's why you're traveling.
Yeah.
That's why
learn
you're
a few words in their language. As far as the things to bring, I bring, my camp kit, a Coleman stove.
And you're on a rooftop tent now. You're off of a ground tent.
I have a ground tent, and I always bring a ground tent. But I do have a rooftop tent. It's super handy, especially when you're chasing a race, because I can stop anywhere that's level, and I'm, in bed in 5 minutes. Personal items. Make sure you bring, Imodium AD. Be careful about, the basic stuff about in Baja. It's like you never ordered anything with ice. They're much better about that now. But you might order something with lettuce or vegetables, and they're not necessarily clean, and you get sick. And so you need to bring those types of items. So from a vehicle standpoint, make sure you got plenty of range, fuel-wise.
Yeah.
Understand how to read a map. Too many people are dependent on their GPS And if you look at my glove box, there's a triple A map of the peninsula.
I was at a antique fair yesterday in downtown Petaluma, and there was a AAA map framed for $45. And I thought, God, I should just buy that. Then I'll go on eBay and just buy the map.
Do you know what year it was?
It was probably
the
middle
map
80s.
was? Okay.
Middle 80s. It was Baja Sur. It wasn't the full. It was just the half.
Yeah. So a map, a compass, I'm a strong advocate of being aware of your surroundings and not following that GPS line in a map. Next week, we're going to be racing. I'm going to be navigating one day. I run the road book, and I'm back between the gauges, the GPS, the road book. I'm constantly going into that road book because if your GPS goes down and you're not paying attention, you have no idea where you are. It doesn't matter if you're racing or just driving.
Yeah, you're down a rabbit hole. If you're only on GPS and that GPS doesn't...
100% dependent.
Yeah.
And, and they say it's not a matter of if, it's going to stop working. It's when it's going to stop working. And you just need to, not be, tethered to that umbilical cord.
So some recovery gear.
Yep.
A map. What else? What's Chris Collard's top 5?
Water.
Fuel, water.
Bottle of tequila.
I think
3 o'clock. I know it's I know you have a different tequila, but we call it, my friends that, travel down, we came up with this thing. It's like the 3 o'clock Don Julio stop. So 3 o'clock, you get to stop and salute, your buddy, Senor Julio.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to leave
Fortaleza.
it. Yeah. Well, I think we're going to leave it right there. Fortaleza is so hard to find these days. It's just, you can get a Fortaleza in most of the very good bars, Mexican restaurants, what have you. It's no problem to find a shot as long as you've got the means. But to find a bottle in a liquor store now that's not 2x or 3x of what the MSRP is almost impossible.
I was not. My introduction to it was through you.
Yeah, well,
and I was not aware of it.
You've lived a very sheltered life.
I must have, but it's actually, I'm a fan. I became a fan.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
If you can find it, buy it. Yeah. All right, we're going to leave it right there. Chris, thank you so much for making some time to talk about adventure and why adventure matters and some of your adventures and your feelings on Baja and Rod Hall. Last but not least, I wanted to wrap this up with, on our last trip, you were on my trip. You were on the Slow Baja Vintage Expedition. And the most important thing about that, besides the 2 magazine articles, you shot one and you shot and wrote another one that's coming out.
Yeah.
So Car and Driver just came out, bought it yesterday at a newsstand, a real newsstand bookstore, magazine rack, which was why I was...
Hard copy.
Yeah, hard copy. And
tangible, put your hands on it.
Exactly. I read it last night in person. It was really amazing. Flip those pages, turn the pages. It was a good story. Alana Schur wrote that. But the most important thing of that trip, besides the article that's coming out in Haggerty, is you adopted a dog.
I did.
So
that was
Baja Animal Outreach, Rick Howe at Shipwrecks, San Jacinto. I've been passing by that place, for years with Nora, and I hadn't stopped. And I was doing some pre-running for my trips, my Slow Baja trips, and just decided to stop and see what I could do for Rick, what he needed. And of course, he's running a dog rescue. He needs dog food. He needs money for vet stuff. And he had 40-something dogs there. Then I ran into Matt Frick at Camp 4 Low. We were just past each other on the road. And he said, there's a stray dog up the road. I tried to get it, but I couldn't get it. Well, I had Frankie with me, my dog. So I put some water out for this stray and put some food out. And eventually the dog came over and ate and drank. And I was able to get close enough over the period of 45 minutes. I was able to pick him up and put him in Frank's little travel case and run him over to Rick, who was only 40 minutes down the road. And Rick started crying when he saw him. He's like, I can't take another dog. I can't. I got 46 dogs.
Yeah.
I said, well, here's 47.
I think he had 45 when we got there.
And here's 47, and here's $100 bill to assuage my guilt for turning around and driving away as I'm shedding tears.
Yeah.
And then, I came back, a month and a half-ish later, and they had these 3 beautiful puppies, and that's what we're going to get to. 3 gorgeous puppies that I had photographed on the second part of my pre-run. And I said, I got to find these dogs at home. These puppies are gorgeous. 3 sisters. And thank God for Mark Jukes, who brought his daughter Macy. 17-year-old Macy came on the adventure. Mark was my medic, and she locked on to one of those 3 puppies. And
so we see how you work, Michael.
Worked her dad over.
I got to find homes for these dogs. I'm going to bring some gringos down that just can't help themselves.
And so we brought, I don't know, 600-800 pounds of food over and some dineros, and but Maisie talked her dad into taking a dog. How did it work? Because you came all the way home. You came back here to Northern California, which, what are you, 8-10 hours north of the border?
Yep. 600 miles.
And so you got all the way back here, and you talked to your wife.
I did.
How did that conversation go?
I had been thinking about it, of course, but I'm in Edla, and I had somebody riding with me.
You're a practical guy.
Well, I also was working.
Yeah.
I was filming, had a whole bunch of stuff in the back. Right. And, I assumed that the dog probably would still be there in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So,
the dog I dropped off is still there.
Yeah.
God, he looks good now.
Yeah. So I had been thinking about it, and I got back and I talked to my wife. I showed her pictures, and we went to SEMA for Las Vegas for the SEMA show, and then I had to run up to Kanab after that for a memorial for a friend. And my wife and I had been talking. We had gotten a hold of Rick and said, I think we're probably going to try to get back down. And I was talking also with Mark, the other Mark.
Yeah, who's also on the trip. So Mark was Mark's brother-in-law. Yes, Mark Jukes with the Forward Control and the daughter who adopted Corazon. His brother-in-law came in a Jeep Gladiator pickup, the beautiful blue truck.
Not like the new Gladiators, like the old J2000.
66, I believe it was. It's stunning patina, beautiful sound. And he lives in El Dorado Hills, so not all that far from you. And he came all the way home and then turned around and went back in a Lexus.
He was over here.
We had a Lexus.
We had his vehicle in the rack changing out parts on the front end, like before he was trying to head down there.
And he went back and got his second sister.
And he volunteered. He said, I can pick that one up for you if you want. And I talked to my wife and we're like, if we were 20, we would just drive that 900 miles down there and get that dog. And we're like, yeah. If we were 20, it's like, so we went from Vegas to Kanab, Utah, and then turned around and headed back down. So yeah, picked her up. And the cool thing is, first of all, thank you for introducing us to the 3 puppies. Is they're all in the States? Yes, we smuggled them back across the border. And they are all within like 30 miles of each other. So the other 2 have gotten together. We haven't gotten my dad. We named ours Cali.
Yeah, Cali.
The other 2 have gotten together. We haven't gotten all 3 of them
Baja,
together.
And Corazon, because the first one has a little heart-shaped white spot.
Yeah. So we've been planning a little doggy reunion.
Yeah. And how did that work out? Honestly, you said you smuggled the dogs back, but I know that we go through a very rigorous inspection on our side of the border with our customs officials, and they look inside your car.
Yep.
And in practice, what I've found is while you are supposed to go online and fill out some forms, which I have done, there's not a whole lot of rigmarole either going south with a dog or coming north with a dog.
Yeah,
in practice.
I've done it. I brought my dogs to Baja my entire life of traveling in Baja. And I got the USDA certificate, blah, blah, blah. Never been asked for it. I made tags for her and we took her across, and she was nice and quiet and just sat in the back. She was scared to death.
Sure.
She's like, oh my gosh.
What am I doing here?
What am I doing here? I just got this, aliens just picked me up and stuffed me in the back of the Tacoma, and she had a little pillow, and I got her a collar and a name tag and all that. So there wasn't any questions. I think they're more interested in all the bad stuff the bad guys are bringing across.
Yeah. I mean, they're looking for guns and drugs and whatever. They're not looking for people who are going to give a dog a new life. Yeah. All right. Well,
so that was great. And I wanted to circle back around on your question about what I bring to Baja or traveling in general. I think one of the things that people get tied up in is like, we're going to do this trip, whether it's to Africa or going to Baja, is they spend so much time researching the gear and buying this and that and the other thing. And pretty soon, they've got all this stuff, but it's like, to me, it's more about the experience. And I would say you can forego a lot of that stuff and just go out there and do it. And depending on people's budgets, it's like, you can spend a lot of money on that stuff, which is great. I mean, so much of it has a purpose. But to me, it doesn't make up for maybe the lack of experience. If you just like get your recovery gear, get some good tires, get your camp gear together, get a map, have some common sense, and head south with a map and talk to people. Always talk to people. Talk to the locals. Go to the guy at the taco stand. Learn a little bit of Spanish and say, what's interesting around here to go see? Are there good beaches, or is there something interesting in the mountains, or is there any old Spanish missions, or, just get out there and do it.
Yeah, I always say that if you unfold a big map, or you open your benchmark or your Baja Atlas, in somebody's small roadside cafe, they have a table where you're able to do that on the final floral printed tablecloth. Somebody will inquire, what are you doing? Where are you going?
All right.
And if you're huddled over your phone, looking maybe at the very same thing on your small screen, I think that sends a signal that says, don't bother me.
And I'm scrolling Facebook or something like that. I don't know.
And what you're doing right there is crowdsourcing information from people who have posted information online, instead of asking the people who live right there.
That's right.
Who may very well tell you that my cousin has a palapa out there at that beach, and if you say that Juanita sent you, you might get onto a pretty interesting evening.
That's right.
Because
you're gonna have an amazing evening.
Because they're going to say, or that road washed out on the last storm and you can't get there.
That's right.
And that's valuable inside information as well. It could save you hours.
Don't be afraid to talk to the locals. Don't be afraid to turn down an alleyway. If you see a taco stand that's down some dark alleyway and there's a whole bunch of people in front of it, that's because they have good tacos.
That's because they have excellent tacos.
They have excellent tacos. Go where the locals go.
Yeah.
We were talking about, memorable meals. If you had to pick like your top 5, one of them was out near Punta Maria, which is on the Lost Coast area. With me, it was 28 or 29 years ago. Buddy of mine were out there. We went out fishing for the day out on the point, mile away from our vehicle. We come back and 2 locals, fishermen. There's nothing around. I mean, on the Lost Coast, back then there was really nothing around. 2 guys are sitting there in our camp. And one of them had a lobster and another one had a set of shark jaws. And they wanted to trade us for beer. They were fishermen from the fish camp. There's nothing around. Everything came from the cigarettes, the beer, anything came from El Jefe and the fish camp. They wanted to trade for beer. And to show you, an example of how dishonest these people are, our beer was sitting underneath the tailgate of my truck all day, just sitting out there in the open.
They could have taken it. They could have taken it.
I mean, we came back but they wanted to trade. So we worked out a deal. I'm like, I want the shark jaws. I still have them. Kevin wanted the lobster. And then he realized he wanted shark jaws too. So they're like, un momento, regresamos. We'll be back. And so they went back, carved out another set of shark jaws, came back with like 5 pounds of shark meat and the jaws. And one was Daniel, and the El Jefe, the older guy, was named Eduardo. And they were he was like the old man on the sea, and they wanted to make machaca. So they made a bloody mess out of my camp kitchen on my tailgate of my, truck, tomatoes, tomatoes and cebolla and just everything, tortillas. It was one of the best meals.
They made ceviche, fresh.
No, they made machaca.
Machaca.
Yeah.
Okay, so they dried it out.
One of the most memorable meals I've had.
Yeah.
What did it cost?
Couple beers.
We finished off all of my beer and just about all the tequila we had.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. It's like we finally were like, I don't know, midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 in the morning. I don't know. We're like, we got to get rid of these guys. I got to go to sleep. But it was, awesome people. And you just need to open yourself up to the experience, to letting them, to letting them get to know you,
Well, nice getting to know you a little bit over the years. Yeah. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about your experience on the Slow Baja Vintage Expedition. So I feel like I roped you into this thing over a number of years. trying to get you involved in the Slow Baja Safari with Nora and some other things. And finally, I was peppering you about coming on this trip, and it was the 50th anniversary of Sal marking his first 1975 Baja 1000. And I thought you were going to be, in my mind, you were going to be Sal's minder. I didn't think you were going to be a photographer, photojournalist writing a story about the thing. So I thought in my mind, I need to get Chris involved to look after Sal, because Sal said he was going, which I always thought he was going to say, I can't. And last minute, sorry, can't do it. And then I realized you're going to bring this amazing vehicle, and I'm not going to subject Sal to riding, 800 something miles in your amazing vehicle, which would be a little bit too close to the way he did it in 1975 in a Volkswagen thing, all open, exposed. And I'm very much like you. I'm, it's open vehicle, exposed, half doors, vinyl top, all that stuff. And so that's when I, reached out to Alana. I said, can you get something with air conditioning and be Sal's minder? And I felt very much that you were going to be able to sell a trip. And when Alana said that, she was coming, I said, do you work with Chris? And she said she did. And I felt that was going to be a good match. And then you did your separate article for Haggerty, which has not come out as time of this recording.
Next issue.
So what did you learn? We had a lot of vehicles on that trip, 20 vehicles, 40 people. What did you learn on that? Or what was maybe your highlight of that trip?
Yeah, well, first of all, having Sal ride with Alana was awesome. That was perfect. And the reason I figured that out very quickly, is because Sal had so many amazing stories. And in my Jeep,
you can't hear it,
aren't
you can't hear.
I'm like, I kept,
and I'm losing my hearing from driving mine.
I kept cupping over the microphone on my radio, trying to, I don't have an intercom system. That's what I need to get for it. And that if he was riding with me, he wouldn't have been able to share all those stories with everyone because he just couldn't hear. So that actually worked out great. I learned a lot about Sal. I've known Sal through the industry circles, but never really had a time to, spend time with him. And how much fun. I mean, the guy is 86 years old.
How do I want to be when I'm 86?
Exactly.
It's that guy.
He's got so much energy. He's got the sense of humor of a late night comedian. I mean, you were there. He comes off with these wild jokes off. You're like, really?
Yeah. And just a smile that doesn't stop. He was smiling at everything. Legit, smiling at everything.
Yeah. So I thought the Slow Baja, your trip was really, really fun and a great way. And I wrote this in the Haggerty article that's coming up.
Which I haven't seen yet.
No, it hasn't come out yet. A great way for somebody to get their feet wet in Baja and have a great experience. I mean, I really liked some of the camps that you went to. And for folks that are listening or watching, I'm not blowing smoke up Michael's skirt.
And I'm not asking him to.
But I've
been very nice to you for this entire interview, though.
Go ahead. The camps that we ended up, the ranchos that we went into, Bolita.
Yeah, Rancho La Bayota.
Bayota.
That guy Raul, huh?
Mm-hmm. And the other one was Concepcion.
And those Vitza and Cesar are lovely. They're just lovely.
Awesome. So places that I've driven by, obviously they're kilometers off of the main track, but I would have no idea that they were
10 miles above Melling for Vitza and Cesar. Mm-hmm. And you probably would never go to Raul's ranch. It's a half hour down a dirt road.
Didn't know it was there.
Exactly. But it's so close yet so far away. And he's gold.
Those were highlights. I think besides having a lot of, vintage rides, which always makes a trip interesting, it's the people. Again, it comes down to the people that were on the trip. Everybody was, so like-minded. Everybody loved old iron. When, I was super embarrassed because you weren't there, but I'd been working on this thing on Edla, all hours of all days leading up to it. Somebody needed fuel coming out of that first camp.
Yeah, one of those Jeep guys.
And I'm like, I got some fuel.
They're
I'll
both
turn
having
around.
fuel problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I come back and okay, ended up that I didn't have as much fuel in my can as I thought. So I'm like, well, I'll just pop the hood and we'll pump, take the fuel line off and use the fuel pump I pop the hood. Kurt, right? Mind you, Off-Road Hall of Fame guy.
Kurt Leduc. Yeah, famed racer, Off-Road Hall of Famer.
We pop the hood.
The mechanic and sweep of this trip.
And he's like, "You're missing the cap on your power steering pump." I'm like, "Oh, geez." I look in there. I'm like, I just, like I said, long days scrambling, trying to. And then I think it was Mark on the other side. He's like, "You got an air filter laying down here on the side of your motor?" I'm like, Am I actually admitting this to the public? I think I am.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it was such chaos trying to get everything
You
ready
had a
and get
few
down
things
there.
on your mind. Yeah, you had a few things on your mind for sure.
I found that power steering cap,
which is
amazing. It's
amazing.
sitting in a box over here because I was throwing stuff in boxes and I just forgot and I forgot to put it back on. So
that just
we zip
covered up
tied
with
some plastic bag over it.
Yeah. All right.
That was embarrassing, especially with Kurt. I'm like, oh, God, okay. Everybody's there. I'm like, first day, this guy's like, this guy is a regular knucklehead.
Well, this is why I bring a mechanic on the trip. I don't always have somebody as famous as Kurt Leduc, but that's why I bring a mechanic. And had you had a splinter, well, Mark could have taken the splinter out of your hand because he was my medic. A medic and a mechanic. That's a little insurance for me.
Yeah. So anyway, I was embarrassed, but anyway, we put a zip-tied plastic bag over the power steering, put my air filter back on. I actually had an extra air filter with me. I carried some of those parts, and I was really happy because Edla ran awesome the whole rest of the trip.
All the way up to Mike's Sky Ranch. It was amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're going to put you on the spot for that
story. That's a campfire yarn right there.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, I'm delighted you made the effort and you brought this magnificent vehicle down, which we haven't discussed, but this vehicle is part of the Mark Smith team of vehicles that went all the way up the Pan American Highway and through the thought to be impassable at one point in the world,
right.
The Darien Gap.
Yeah.
And this was one of a team of 7 vehicles or five vehicles.
There were 6, but only 5 CJs that did the Darien. The other was a Wagoneer support vehicle.
And this has the dents to prove it. Tree fell on it or something.
Yeah. It was. They had a lot of mechanical issues, and it was being towed. According to Tim Stegan, who was an OG on that trip, and they were towing it, and it got cattywampus and got rolled over in a creek. So just an honor to own it. It's a whole nother story on how I ended up with this vehicle. But
well, it's just an honor that you actually used it and brought it on my trip. Yeah. I mean, even if you didn't have the power steering cap or the air filter in or any of the other stuff, you were willing to help your fellow Jeepers who all the problems were with Jeepers this year.
So I admit that, and now Michael's not going to let that one die.
No,
I'm going to hear that again.
Not at all. But you had mentioned OG. I think of you as an OG, and best way for folks to follow what you're doing, Google searching Chris Collard, COLLARDCHRIS.
Just like the vegetable if you're from the South.
Yeah, the collard greens. So if you're Google searching that, you will see lots and lots of articles and lots of articles that you've photographed and written, and lots of information about you, the person. Lots of podcasts I noticed are out there.
I actually Googled myself, and I'm like,
don't tell anybody.
I'm sorry?
Don't tell anybody you're Googling yourself.
I did. I Googled myself. I'm like, oh. That's kind of fun. A lot of stuff you forget about, over time.
Yeah.
And then I
will tell you have an ancient. Is that a website? Is that Gen 1 from like the first part of the internet?
I'm sorry?
Your website? You have a website.
I do have a website.
And why don't you give people a web address?
It is at adventurearchitects.com.
Adventurearchitects.com. And you have a Facebook.
My website is just it's photo gallery and stuff. It's through SmugMug. So it is I don't have like a
smug mug, folks. That says it all right there.
It's just I'm horrible in that respect, and I'm not.
You don't have time for that
great
stuff.
On the social media thing. I'm Chris Collard on social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. But yeah, I mean, I never had a grand desire to like be the guy that jumps out in front of the camera.
Right. Right.
More comfortable behind it.
Yeah, you're pretty good behind it.
So I figured I'd stay in my lane in that respect. The website, even though it's through SmugMug, it's more just marketing. If somebody wants to find out who I am or what I've done, I mean, it's got different pages for covers and columns and wildlife and that type of thing.
It says you're legit.
I'm sorry?
It says you're legit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. If you wanted to see the number of people that go to my website, it's probably very small. I don't really care, but
Well, we're going to leave it right there.
Hey, one more thing.
Yeah.
They can find this. We've been doing a restoration. So I got involved with Rick Payway and Mike Harrington and these
Jeep
guys.
legends, some Jeep legends there.
I mean, a guy that one of my mentors when I kind of started, he would redline all my editorial stuff. And I'm like, oh, why don't you like this? He goes, nobody cares. Get to the point. So anyway, we started this thing called Gone Jeepin', GONEJEEPN, Gone Jeepin'. And we've been doing, and we started it for fun. Like if we make enough money to like buy ourselves and the group breakfast at the Moab Diner each year, that's a win, you know.
So Gone Jeepin'.
Gone Jeepin'. And we've been doing all kinds of fun Jeep videos, like all Jeep all the time, even though I've got Toyotas and other stuff. But I've been doing a restoration project on this and not going to mess with the patina, the dents, or any of that stuff, but just mechanical. So, yeah.
All right.
Fun stuff.
Gone Jeepin', that's on social media. That's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube, yeah.
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 All right.
Social media.
And Chris, have a safe drive down to Baja. Can't wait till our paths cross again. I'll be looking for that Haggerty article in Drivers Club magazine.
Yep.
And I appreciated seeing the photos of the Ineos Grenadier and you snuck a few photos of the vintage trucks in there, and you got a picture of Frank in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
with the dog food, I think we were standing on the tailgate.
Yep, exactly. Loading up that Ineos quartermaster full of dog food to give to Rick Howe.
And so before we part, I think you're going to be down in Baja in a week or so too. So
I can't wait. Yeah, I will be in my other Land Cruiser. I have a 1990 Land Cruiser 80 series with a Camp Tech conversion, European import, and I'm getting a new set of Shieldman seats put in and some wheels and some tires.
Yeah.
I'll be seeing the magnificent Zelzine, who's working on the Pacific Crest Trail, finding an extension through the mountains of Baja. So I'm looking forward to interviewing her down in Catavenia. And
we may cross paths because I get done with Nora. And then I'm going to meander my way north.
And will you be at Overland Expo?
Not this year, actually. Sorry.
Okay.
I get back and I got a quick turn time. I got to go to Detroit for a shoot with Ram Trucks. So
busy man. Glad you made some time for me today. Thank you so much. And you made me lunch and a beautiful cup of coffee.
So appreciative to be on the show and on the podcast. And again, it's always fun sitting down and hanging out. And hopefully, like I said, I'll see you in a week or so and we'll
can't wait.
Do a little tequila around the fire.
I'll have some.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Chris. We did it. Well, I hope you like that conversation. Chris is a great guy, and I really love getting to people's homes, sitting down in his garage with his trucks and his gear and his stuff and his dog and my dog. And if you like all that stuff, if you like the way I roll, if you like me going to see these people where they are, where they live, putting in the time, putting in the miles, putting in the gasoline, please, please, please drop a taco in the tank. Please drop a taco in the tank. I am imploring you, taco holding folks. Share a few with me. I need it to keep on doing what I'm doing. I'm closing in on show 180, which means I'm not very far away from show 200. I will get there this year with your support. So slowbaja.com/donations. Drop some tacos in the tank. And if you don't have tacos, I get it, but I'm not letting you off the hook. You really do need to go to Apple or Spotify, drop a 5-star review. Tell people why you're listening to the show. It does help folks find me. It does help the show grow. And that is super important. Okay, well, I will be back with a great show very, very soon. And until then, I'm going to leave you with my pal, Mary McGee, her pal, Steve McQueen. And you know, Steve, he loved Baja. He really did. He loved driving the Baja Boot. He loved riding motorcycles with the Eakins brothers. He loved all that stuff. And he said, you know, Mary, Baja's life. Anything that happens before or after is just waiting. You know, people always ask me, what's the best modification that I've ever made to Slow Baja? Without a doubt, it's my Shieldman seats. You know, Toby at Shieldman USA could not be easier to work with. He recommended a Vario F for me and a Vario F XXL for my navigator, Ted. This Ted's kind of a big guy. And Toby was absolutely right. The seats are great and they fit both of us perfectly. And let me tell you, after driving around Baja for over a year on these seats, I could not be happier. Shieldman, Slow Baja approved. Learn more and get yours at shieldman.com. You know, I'm all about keeping things simple, traveling light, and finding the really good stuff. And that's why I've been wearing iron and resin for years. It's not just clothes. It's gear that holds up in the dust, the salt, the spilled tacos, and still looks good when you roll into town. Made in small batches by folks who care, no flash, no fast fashion, just the kind of stuff that gets better the more you wear it. Check them out at ironandresin.com and pick up something that'll last the next 1,000 miles.